King Francis I. It is the spring of 1547, and across France, a quiet but heavy moment has arrived. King Francis I, one of the most powerful and courageous rulers of the Renaissance, is dead. He has ruled France for more than 3 decades, shaping its culture, fighting its wars, and leaving behind a legacy that stretches far beyond its borders. But like so many great figures of history, his final days were not marked by glory, but by decline, illness, and the slow fading of a once vigorous life. Francis I was not just a king, he was a symbol of Renaissance Europe, a patron of arts, a rival to emperors, and a man who brought figures like Leonardo da Vinci to France. His court was known for its splendour, its learning, and its ambition, but by the mid-1540s, the king, who had once been tall, athletic, and full of energy, was no longer the same man. In his later years, Francis suffered from a number of health problems. He had long been affected by complications believed to stem from syphilis, a disease that was widespread in Europe at the time and often poorly understood. Alongside this, he developed painful sores and infections that weakened him physically. His condition worsened gradually, and by the early 1547, it became clear that the king was dying. As March grew to a close, Francis was staying at his chateau. There he was surrounded by a smaller circle of attendants. He spent his final days increasing in discomfort. Reports from the time described him as suffering from severe ulcers and what may have been septicemia, a blood infection that in the 16th century was almost fatal. Despite his suffering, Francis remained mentally alert for much of his time. He is said to have reflected on his reign, his wars, and his legacy. He had spent years in conflict with Charles V. On the 31st of March, 1547, Francis I died at the age of 52. The exact cause of death is not recorded with certainty, but historians generally agree that it was a result of a combination of chronic illnesses, infection, and possibly the long-term effects of syphilis. His body, once strong and commanding, had simply been worn down over time. His death marked the end of an era in France. He was succeeded by his son, Henry II, who would inherit both the throne and the ongoing conflicts that had defied his father's reign. Across Europe, the news of Francis' death was received with a mixture of respect, calculation, and quiet relief by his rivals. For England, the timing was striking. Henry VIII had died only months earlier, in January 1547. Now, two of most Europe's most domineering monarchs were gone within the same year, leaving younger rulers and shifting alliances in their wake. It was a moment of transition, one that shaped the political landscape for years to come. Yet beyond politics and power, there is something deeply human in the story of France's death. Here was a king who had lived a life of grandeur, ambition, and cultural achievement, reduced in his final days to pain, reflection, and a quiet approach of mortality. It is a reminder that even the most powerful figures in history are not immune. Francis I is remembered today not just for how he died, but for how he lived. As a patron of the Renaissance, a supporter of the arts, and a king who helped shape the identity of France.